Icy cold day today here in South Texas. People have been asking me about the Men in Black and the Moth Man of West Virginia and the Allen West. Well, let me just tell you, I've told you all before, but I'm going to tell you again. Allen West is the guy who actually did most of the connections in the Alcatraz to get these guys out. And I don't know, there's controversy how much of it was Frank and how much was him, but Frank was pretty brilliant about figuring things like that out. But then West had these connections all over the prison, because I think he worked in a bookstore or something, and he would carry books to everybody every day so he could get a message to anybody anytime he wanted. Allen West, all these guys were in different cells, 4 guys, 4 different cells. They were working on, digging out the little vents so they could crawl out. But Allen, when it came time for these guys to finish, Allen hit a steel bar that he couldn't get through. Now, I don't know what happened in the movie, but this is what Frank told me. He said that when it comes time for you to go, you gotta go. You can't wait for anybody, and we wanted to wait for him because he was one of us, and he helped us all the way through. He seemed to be like scared that Allen West might catch him someday and beat him up for not finding a way to get Allen out of his cell. But he also had to, be the hard ass that he was, that, when it's time to go, we go. They had already decided that. What Frank told me, like I said, I don't think this is in the movie because no one would have known this except Frank himself and the Anglins. Frank said that he had crawled back down the chute or whatever it was and got, on the outside of Allen's cell, and they were talking about, what to do. And I remember him saying that he asked Allen for a cup of water. Allen gave him a cup of water, and then he said goodbye. Knowing Frank, he probably didn't even say goodbye. He just walked away, and it seemed like he kind of let on that that's what happened, and they just left Allen there. But they had built the raft big enough to take 4 people, not 3. And they had a backup raft for safety just in case something went wrong. They had a backup raft that they could hold on to and swim, and maybe it would only hold 1 person. I guess Frank's thinking, if the big one goes out, Frank's gonna row for the shore and let his buddies die, because that's the kind of person he was. But anyway, what they did was they took their safety raft, their backup raft, and they left it behind so that just in case Allen could get out of there, he would have that raft, and they left him an oar. That's what caused some of the confusion about oars and rafts and everything. And then he told Allen that he was going to leave that there for him, but they kept it quiet. Now, these guys escaped and everything, and they went all over the country into Mexico. They're murdering people. And again, they're from Ruskin, Florida, which is 20 miles south of Tampa, where I'm from, which is how I ran into them so many times. Allen had family in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is right across the bay from Tampa. And when he finally, finished his time or whatever, I'm not sure if they didn't move him from Alcatraz to somewhere else, I think, and then he finished his time and got out. He went back to St. Petersburg. These guys went and seen him a few times from Mexico. This is what Frank told me, in Mexico City. And the way they were talking, Allen may have been a killer too, so he may have participated with them in what they called having fun, torturing and murdering people there in St. Petersburg. And I know they got a girlfriend of mine that I had in St. Petersburg, or at least I can't find her anymore. And Frank claimed, he had his way of claiming things, remember that girl, the blonde-haired one that you met at the wrestling matches? This guy was there at the matches where I met this girl, and I didn't know it. And he goes, well, she's ours now. What are you talking about? Well, have you seen her lately? No. That's his way of saying that they took her. She was beautiful, looked exactly like Gina Lollobrigida. So, Allen West may have even been involved in her abduction and whatever. Allen, he ended up getting back in trouble again and going back to prison, and I think he died in prison. And that's about the whole story. But, these guys got back together in St. Petersburg after the escape from Alcatraz and after Allen West was let out of prison. Okay, the Men in Black is pretty simple. 3 guys walk into a bank in, I think it was Niagara Falls, wearing black suits with a black tie, black hat, and all of that kind of thing. They got them on camera and everything, and these guys just did this to show people how powerful they were and how nobody could do anything to them. The 3 guys that escaped from Alcatraz walk into a bank, and they're escaped bank robbers. They walk in black suits. Now, how they managed to murder 3 guys and get black suits from them is, that's probably the key to this whole thing, but Frank never told me much about that. He just asked me if I'd ever heard of the Men in Black, and then he'd go, like that meant, well, we did it. He didn't say that, but, he didn't say it, but that's what it meant. What I recall is they just walked back out of the bank, and that's all there was to it. But they looked like FBI agents. That's what, or a CIA, then that's what made the thing, become kind of public. And that's what Frank was all about, he called it, he told me he was about promoting himself. And he had another word for it, like advertising and that kind of thing, but I forgot what it was. But that's why the Men in Black thing stood out. The Moth Man of West Virginia. The Moth Man, these guys, there were people who drove down the road and saw this Moth Man fly around their car or something. But, Frank, his answer to that was, it's one thing to fly around somebody's car, but it's another thing to give the appearance that you're flying. Well, that tells me what Frank did. Those guys had some ropes and things, and they knew when to swing across the road. There were a lot of trees there on the road that I saw the pictures of. You can find some things on it up there in the internet up there in West Virginia. And by the way, my mother is from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and we lost several cousins on the bridge that fell down, and these guys are what caused the bridge to fall down. I'll get to that in a second. There was this family, and I'm sure Frank, because this is the way he would do, he would stand around somewhere and start learning things about people, asking questions to different people. He would talk to that person if he thought he could get them to talk to him and not remember who he was. And he would, look real plain and everything and dress in non-colorful things so that they wouldn't kind of be able to make any descriptions. That's how these guys always worked. If they dressed up like anything, they would dress up like maintenance men. That way people thought wherever they were at and whatever they were doing, they would think that they worked there. But anyway, they stayed in some type of closed down military hole in the ground that was used for holding armament, weapons, explosives, and that kind of thing. It'd been abandoned and everything. And the only thing I remember about that was Frank said that the mosquitoes were terrible in there. And I saw something on the internet about it, something about the mosquitoes. From there, they would dress up like a moth. There were some pictures. Someone got a picture of this Mothman, flying through the air, and you can see his legs. And I mean, John Anglin had very distinctive legs. He couldn't really run really well. Frank always bragged about how good he could swim and run, but John could barely get one foot in front of the other one. He was like, I don't know if you've ever seen kids like that there's very few of them around. It's some kind of genetic thing, I think. It seems like the lower leg is longer than the upper leg, and they have to throw the foot out and land on it, and throw the other one out and land on it. They never really get completely coordinated with it. Well, you can see that in those legs of his, and I've seen his legs from underneath my house when they were trying to sneak up on me, and I've seen him walk, and I know that's John Anglin's legs. So I'm figuring they rigged up some ropes, he puts on this suit, and he swings like Tarzan across somewhere. Somehow they won't see the ropes. They probably painted them black, and they go in the evening. Frank would know how to choreograph that whole thing, because that's what he was about. And there was one lady, I think, husband and wife, that they had, and you don't see much about this. You have to really search on the internet to find it. Because when you think about Frank Morris and the Zodiac killer and all that, the first thing you think of is coded letters and notes to people. And there are some notes out there that he wrote, and if you look at them, you can tell it's Frank's writing, the Zodiac killer writing. And one of them said something to this lady about, we're going to get you, or something like that. I don't know why he just chose her, but I think it's probably because he realized that she was maybe a little too nervous and hysterical, and it would be easy to get her all confused by showing her these, things of flying around wearing a moth suit. To my recollection, they never did anything to her. I think they decided to get out of West Virginia before they got caught, And there were some abductions that happened about that time, or missing persons and that kind of thing, but nothing was ever, I can't find any details on any of it to be able to relate it to the type of murders Frank would do, the Zodiac killer type of murders. And I don't even think they found the bodies, which is why there's no details. It's just missing persons. And a car was stolen or something. I can't recall what all it was, but enough for me to know that after Frank told me that they did it and said a few things to me about it, once I went and studied it and go, yeah, that's the things that Frank told me. It all fits in there. And in closing, I'm going to tell you about a guy. They saw this Moth Man up on the bridge, like he was working on the bridge. That's the Silver Bridge. A year later, it fell down. That's where I lost my cousins. That's it for today. Thank you very much.